Everybody, and we are live. So I'm sorry for the delay, but I had some technical issues again, and I cannot do the live at the moment on YouTube because there were some issues with my camera today. So I now have to do the live on my phone and only on Instagram, but nevertheless, that's great. I see people are joining. As always, if you join, then please let us know where you come from, and also obviously I'm interested in what level of your consulting career you currently are. So are you junior consultant, an intern, or a project manager already? Let us know. So write in the comment where you are from and on what career level you currently are. Today we have a cool topic. We will talk about what makes a good management consultant. And I think this is interesting for everyone who wants to become a management consultant, or even for those of you who already are in management consulting and want to know what makes a good consultant. Cool. I see people from Spain. Very nice. Nice to see you all. Good. I would say let's start. And as always, let me start with a short backstory. So the question today is, what makes a good management consultant? And today, if you followed my story, you know that I had a discussion with the founder and CEO of my consultancy that I'm working for. And he has a kind of open door policy. This is pretty cool. So we have very low hierarchies. And every month we have the opportunity to get 1 hour of his time and to discuss important topics with him. And today we talked about what makes a good management consultant. And as always, if you have any questions, then please simply write them in the chat and I will go through them after the content, and I will answer them afterwards. Cool. So as I just said, we discussed what makes a good management consultant. And this was a very interesting question, and actually it was a very active discussion because there were a lot of different views about that. But I found his perspective to be very, very interesting. And he started it the following. He said, many people even ask why you would need a management consultant. And this is very often a valid question. If you go to the client, then there are always those people who say, okay, we can do it all by our own and we don't need any external people. So I think the question why you need consultants at all is a valid question. Nevertheless, he thinks, so my CEO and founder thinks, that it is a very stupid question. Because he thinks about it the following way. He says, okay, the organization or the top management, they have certain problems, or they have tasks that they want people to do in order to have a successful and profitable organization. And the first question that management usually asks themselves is, what kind of problem do I want to solve, and what kind of person do I need in order to solve the problem or in order to get the things done? The second question is, do I have those people internally, or do I need some external people for that? And that's also the reason usually why you need consultants. It doesn't matter if you have the people who can do the tasks internally, then it's perfect, and you usually don't need to work with management consultants. But if you don't have those people because you don't have the capacity, maybe you don't have the expertise, or maybe you don't have the right people with the right spirit at that time, so that are usually reasons why you hire management consultants. So in order to understand what it means to be a good management consultant, so a good exercise is to put yourself, so imagine that you are a top senior executive, that you are a manager, and that you want to get a task done, or that you want to have that you have a problem that you want to have solved. And imagine that you would hire a management consultant to solve the problem or to get the task done. So the question is, what kind of person would you personally, as a manager, hire? And we had a very active discussion, as I just said, and I will give you the following structure. I first will talk about 3 things that, at least in my opinion, does not make a good management consultant, but where many people think that this is what good management consulting is all about, okay? And after that, I will talk about 3 things that I think are important factors of being a good management consultant, okay? But let me first start with the things that, in my opinion, do not make a great management consultant. So first thing is the following. So many people usually think, okay, if I want to join a management consultancy, I need to have the best grades possible. And it's true, usually if you want to join a top management consultancy like MBB, for example, you need to be like top 5 to 10% at least. But the thing is, imagine that you are a manager and that you have a certain task that you need people to do, or that you have a problem to solve. So think about it. Is the first question that you ask yourself really what kind of grades did this person had like in their past? Is this the first question? Is this the most relevant question that you would ask yourself as a manager in order to choose people you want to work with? So probably not. I mean, like, grades can be a good indicator of, how disciplined you are, how well you fit into a system, or how strong your work ethic is. But if I, as a manager, choose people to work with, I usually don't go for the grades. They are one parameter one indicator that says something about the person, but not everything. So maybe grades are something I look at, but it's definitely not the most important thing. Okay, so first misconception is that people think good grades are important or make a good management consultant, but I think this is definitely not the case. Second misconception is that people think you have to be the smartest person in order to be a good management consultant. But again, ask yourself, so if you would be a manager and you had a certain problem that you want to be solved, would you hire the smartest person? I probably wouldn't. I would hire a person that is smart enough to solve the certain problem, but where the investment return ratio is very good. So usually if you have a management problem, like if you want to reduce costs or if you want to increase revenue, you don't need a rocket scientist to do that, okay? You don't need the Harvard or Oxford PhD to solve that problem. And those people are very hard to get. Sometimes it's someone who does not have a very strong academic background, but who has a lot of practical experience or has the right mindset to tackle this task is much more valuable in that specific problem. Okay, so I think consulting is also not about being the smartest person in the room. It's more about being smart enough in order to solve the problem. Misconception number 3 is that in order to be successful in management consulting, you have to be good in making nice looking slides and building nice looking Excel models. And again, I think this is a misconception. So think about it. If you are a manager and want to get a task done or want to be a problem to be solved, would you first think about, or if you had to choose a person, would you first think about the PowerPoint skills or Excel skills that a person has? Probably not. I think, don't get me wrong, we work with PowerPoint and Excel every day, but I think it's way too overrated, right? Making nice slides, of course it helps if you have if you want to sell an idea and you have a nice looking slide deck, but it's by far not the most important thing that you have to do as a management consultant, okay? So I think this is misconception number 3. You don't have to be brilliant in PowerPoint and Excel to be a good management consultant. Okay, so these are the 3 misconceptions. In my opinion, don't get me wrong, these are all things that are important in management consultant, but these are not the most important things, and these are not like the criteria on which I would rate the quality of a management consultant, okay? So just to summarize, number 1, misconception, you don't have to be the best student. Number 2, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And number 3, you don't have to be the king of PowerPoint and Excel in order to be a good management consultant, okay? Again, those things definitely, they help, but they are not the most important thing in management consulting. So of course, you ask yourself now, okay, then Johannes, what are the most important things? And to me, it gets down to mainly 3 things, okay? And let me walk you through that. So I think the one and most important thing is that you are a good problem solver. So what does that mean? So usually, as I just said, I mean, you might imagine you are a manager and you have a task that you want to give to someone, or you have the problem to be solved. Let's be honest. So for you, the most important thing is that you give this task away and you get results, right? That's the important thing. You get the results. If you give a task, if you outsource a task, or give responsibility to someone, the only thing you really care about is to get the result that you expected, okay? To find a solution for the problem that you had. And this was definitely hard to learn for me. So at the beginning, I totally focused on nice looking slides and, all of the stuff that you focus on as a junior. But during the last 3 years, I really understood that the most important thing is that I find a really good solution and that I solve the actual problem, okay? And my success as a management consultant is actually only judged by my success rate of solving problems. So that's the truth. So in order to become a great management consultant, you need to work on your problem solving skills. And I think I made a separate video about a problem solving process. Also, we can talk about that in another live. But first and most important thing is that you are a good problem solver, okay? Then the second most important thing, and it's actually one of the things with my mentees. So I have a mentoring program for people who want kind of guidance through their career management consulting. And one of the most important things we talk about is service mentality, okay? So usually senior executives are paying a lot of money for management consultants, okay? So depending on what kind of consulting you do, they pay like 1,000 USD up until 5,000 USD per day for a management consultant. And now imagine yourself if you spend, just imagine you go to a very expensive restaurant where you pay like 500 or 1,000 USD for a dinner. Or imagine yourself going to a very expensive hotel. So what would you expect the people to be like in order to feel good? Of course, you would expect the highest level of service that is possible. Let's be honest, you spend a lot of money and the kind of service, the level of service that you get is a kind of appreciation and also a very good sign of quality. And it's very much the same in management consulting. So don't forget that we are a service industry. This is very, very important. We are a service industry. So throughout the entire project, we have to have a very strong service mentality. And I know this can be very tough from time to time. So I know, and I definitely experienced it myself. Sometimes, you have the all-nighters, you didn't get much sleep. Also, you have kind of annoying personalities you have to work with. Then you have problems with the data that you get from the client. Also, maybe there's some politics going on and everything sucks, It doesn't matter, right? Nevertheless, you have to have a great service mentality throughout the entire project, okay? And you have to act as a service provider. It's very important because, even if you are a good problem solver, but you are a kind of dick all the time and don't show a professional service mentality, of course, all your problem solving skills, they don't help you because probably your client does not hire you again because they don't feel valued because you didn't show the kind of service mentality that they expect from you, okay? So this is point number 2, have a great service mentality. And point number 3 that I think make a good consultant is to get things done. And also again, it was definitely a problem for me at the beginning. So when I started in management consulting, I thought that I had to come up with those brilliant ideas and have to be a master in all the concepts and kind of building the nicest models and doing the nicest looking slides and, just being conceptually brilliant. But the truth is that, of course, you need a good concept. That's very important. But also one of your main tasks as a management consultant is to get things done, to get the right people together, okay? To be a kind of manager, because basically as a management consultant, that's also part of your work. Okay, so it's very important that you don't only are up there in your ivory tower and do all of the conceptual work and then give it to the organization and say, okay, how to implement it, that's your case. No, it's also your task, even as a strategy consultant, to kind of do the first step of the implementation by managing your stakeholders, by bringing people together, and make sure that you get things done. Okay, that's very important. Otherwise, you won't create the results that the client expects. Okay, so these are the three main things that I think make a good consultant. So again, it's first to be a great problem solver. It's second to have a great service mentality all the time. And it's third to get things done also, or even as a management consultant. If you have any questions, then please write now in the chat. I will go through the questions now and answer them. So let me see if we have any. Also, in the meanwhile, I have a live session, a live Q&A tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET. And I received already a lot of questions, so thank you for that. And I will go through them all tomorrow morning. So if you have questions that do not fit to the topic, but that you want to ask me anyway, then please write me a personal message and I will cover them tomorrow in the Q&A session. Cool. Then if you have any questions, just write them in the chat. I will go through it. Here's a question. What kind of problems do management consultants solve? Well, it highly depends on the kind of consultancy you're working for. So I made a video, I think 2 or 3 days ago, about the type of management consulting firms that are out there in the market. So let's say as a strategy consultant, and that's the field where I work in. So this is like the work of McKinsey, BCG, Bain, and so on. So you usually have three areas where you're working in. So the first problem that you usually try to solve is, how can I increase my revenue as a company? Then the second is how can I reduce cost? And the third is, how can I improve my organization? So basically, as a strategy consultant, these are the three main areas where you work in. But then again, I mean, it's kind of impossible to make a list of all the problems you solve, because, I mean, let's talk about revenue. This can be a revenue increase for a certain product line. This can be a market entry scenario. This can be a pricing case. I mean, it's getting very complex, okay? But those are the three main buckets. And I would say that also for the other consultancies, probably they are all around these three buckets. Like the big four are more in the financial sector, for example, or they are more in the operational level. It's the same with companies like Accenture, for example. They are probably more on the technology side. So, you know, it varies, but usually I would say the three buckets, like revenue increase, cost reduction, and organizational improvement, those are the main categories of problem solving in management consulting. Okay, Bruno says, consultants solve a vast range of problems like investment in new power plant. Exactly. Yeah. So Bruno already gave the answer. Very cool. Thank you. Any tips on building partnership with clients? So with partnership, you probably mean like building a good and deep relationship, right? And yesterday I made a video about communication tips for management consultants. I think usually, I mean, there are two levels you can build a relationship. I think the first one, and this is also the one you should start with, is to convince on a professional level, okay? This means that you just do great work, okay? So the easiest step to get along with your client well is to do great work. And I mean, I just covered in this video like three very important things, like be a good problem solver, having a great service mentality, and get things done. So if you apply those three principles, chances are very high that you are doing a great job. And usually this is the first step, right? Because people will first and mostly judge you on your project performance. And if your performance is very good, chances are high that they will hire you again. So this is the first level, and especially as a junior, I would start there, okay? I would put all of my focus on showing my value and giving it all to the client in order to prove that you are worth their money. The second level is that you also get along well on a personal level, okay? So this means after you convince them that you are doing a great job and that you are a great management consultant, it's also very important that you build a personal relationship. And usually it's very easy. I mean, a book that I can highly recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. There, the entire book is how to build deep relationships on a personal level with people. So, I mean, the easiest way is actually just to ask people a lot of questions and to let them do the talking. I mean, as you probably experienced, I mean, in a conversation where you only ask honestly interested questions and people can talk about themselves, I mean, usually after that they will say, wow, that was such a great and interesting conversation, although they were the ones who did all the talking. But I mean, this is how it works. And also one of so our CEO and founder, managing partner, he has really, I tell you, a world-class network. And he says the key to it is that he makes other people feel good, that he let them do the talking, and also that he finds like common hobbies and so on, you know, that they have topics to talk about. So this is very important, and this would be my tip. So first, convince on a professional level, but then on the second, also try to build a personal relationship. And third, very important in order to build a network. Networking and relationship building is a consistent work effort, right? So it isn't not only like during the project, the work begins after the project, okay? So if your assignment stops, then the networking and relationship building work really begins, because this is the time when you have to do the calls, like you have to write an email like every 2 weeks to see how things are going, and this is where the work starts. And usually if you want to build a network, I mean, it can take years of relationship building until you actually sell a project yourself as a junior, okay? So these are my tips. Oops, sorry. Can you talk about digital strategy consulting in MBB? Okay, digital strategy consulting in McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Okay, so I mean, the big question is, what the heck is digital strategy? And we had this question a lot in our company. And I mean, you know, kind of the digital strategy stuff. I mean, this was like a hype topic, like probably 10 years ago, right? So everyone needed a digital strategy, and it was kind of, you know, a good project to sell because it was just a buzzword. But the question is it only, so what is a digital strategy, right? I mean, is it only a buzzword, or what's behind that? I think that's the interesting question. And I think about it the following. So as I just discussed, as management consultants, we either increase revenues, we reduce costs, or we improve the organization. And a digital strategy for me is just a tool to achieve that, okay? So the question that I would ask myself is, how can a digital strategy, so how can digital tools, for example, help to increase revenue? So this might probably be, or I mean, usually this is like kind of new digital business models, maybe a new pricing tool, so something like that, okay? Or venturing units. This is all part of the revenue increase. In terms of cost reduction, it's usually like being more efficient by applying kind of data models, by making automizing, using enhanced technology to reduce workforce. So these are all tools to reduce the cost. And also, if you talk about organizational improvement, then it's probably have a very transparent databases to make good decisions and so on. So it's the same, by the way, with kind of sustainability strategy. So for me, those buzzwords or these trendy topics are only tools to work on the three main issues: to work on revenue increase, cost reduction, or organizational improvement. Okay, but nevertheless, if we talk about digital strategy, I mean, it's part now of every strategy project, of course. I mean, it's just like a basic topic. I hope that answered the question. Okay, Ronan says FTE savings. Yes, unfortunately, that's a big part of cost reductions. When you say project performance, do you mean quality of the ideas or something else? No, it's not necessarily the quality of your ideas, because I mean, the most important, if I talk about project performance, then it means first of all, if I find a solution for the problem. And it's not always the best idea that wins, okay? So this is what I meant by saying it's important to have good concepts, but with good concepts, usually you don't solve problems. You solve problems with the implementation of good concepts, okay? So also there are the cases where you have like brilliant ideas, but you cannot implement them because the client does not have the kind of resources, because your idea is too expensive, because it's political too complicated. Okay, so it's not only about like having brilliant ideas, it's also about really getting a solution for the problem. Okay, and sometimes, very often, it's not the best idea that you actually implement. Okay, it's a good idea that is applicable. Okay, so it's not always about the best idea, it's about solving the problem. Okay, and this is what I mean by great performance. And obviously, as I mentioned before, also the service level, of course, is also part of the performance. Delivering good work is selling more work. Exactly. Thank you, guys. It's very nice to read that. Did you face any scenarios where clients were not satisfied with the solution you proposed? Yes, I had. And I definitely had. But you have to live with that. That's also part of being a management consultant. Maybe I should do a live about failure in management consulting, right? Because, let's be honest, this is just part of our game. It can be very difficult. First of all, sometimes your solution just sucks because it was a wrong analysis that you did. This can happen. Also, sometimes, the client just doesn't like you. Sometimes you have a great solution, but then you cannot implement it due to internal politics. So this can happen, and it definitely happened to me. And you just need to figure out like what was the reason for that. So did you do any mistakes in your analysis? Did you did you have the wrong stakeholder management? And it's very important to reflect on that, okay? But nevertheless, if you are in management consulting, then you have to expect that, okay? And it's tough if you're going through these times. It can be really tough, believe me. But you have to deal with that. Failure is part of every successful career. So get used to that. Although you should obviously try to avoid it. Cool. Any tips to move up the ladder in the consulting company? Yes, of course I have. So, when I joined my company, I got on the promotion fast track. And so this means that we have usually we have a certain career path, and I got promoted 2 times well ahead of time. And I think my strategy was to, first of all, deliver great project performance. That's very important. But also very important, the basic thought that I always had and still have is, if you want to get promoted, you have to behave like you are already in the new position. Okay, so if you're the junior consultant, then you want to show that you can perform on the level of a consultant, right? So this means if you're a junior consultant, think like a normal consultant would think. Or also if you want to become a project manager, even as a consultant, think like a project manager, okay? So always be one step ahead and also act like you are one step ahead. So I think that's my main strategy that I had or still have. Okay, and then it's about delivering great performance on a project, but also it's very important. It depends on what consultancy you were working for. There are certain different promotion and mechanics in each consultancy. But in my firm, it's a lot about, the partners decide in my firm who gets promoted. So it's also very important to do some kind of internal networking to show the company your value. Okay, so don't hide yourself internally, promote yourself. But obviously, you don't want to be the talker. You have to be a doer. Right, so those are probably the tips that I can give to you, and they work for me. Failure in consulting work would be a nice topic. Yes, Ina. Okay, I can do a topic about that. Cool. Then wow, here we have a lot of questions. How to prepare for consulting interviews? Which area one should focus? Okay. How to prepare for consulting interviews. This is a broad topic. I will cover that tomorrow, okay? How important is to not hesitate to ask when something is unclear. This is very, very important. It's okay. One mistake that many juniors do is that they are too hesitant. Okay, so they don't are confident with kind of saying that they don't know. Okay, and this can be both on a project or like if you need some help. But it's very important. Okay, it's much better that you ask for help than to do mistakes or to like spend a whole day working in the wrong direction. Okay, so it's very, very important to ask if something is unclear. And guys, and I really mean that. I mean, it's only a sign of maturity and of your professional behavior if you ask for help, okay? So don't do the mistake and think you can do everything on your own. Never hesitate to ask questions. I mean, like if I work with interns or junior consultants, for example, I always want them to ask questions. I mean, if they don't know what to do or don't know how to do it, or if they are lacking a piece of information, because obviously me as a supervisor or as a superior person on the project, of course, I have much more information than usually the junior consultants do. And if I give a task, then I give the task from my point of view, okay, with the information that I have. And often I forget kind of what piece of information people have that I give the task to. So very often it's the case that they don't know everything that they need for the task. And so it's very important that you take the initiative and that you ask for help if you need some, or that you ask if there's something unclear. Okay, so that's very, very important. What kind of sectors do you work on? Is it broad and varied? Focus. Okay, so the question is, in what kind of sector do I work? Is it more narrow or broad? So I work in strategy consulting, and as I just said before, it's revenue increase, cost reduction, and organization improvement. Okay, but I don't do all the tech stuff. I don't do all the like accounting stuff. This is not part of my business. I really only tackle like top management questions. But within top management, I mean, there's still a broad range. Okay. Any last minute tip for an interview? Try to have fun and be yourself. Okay. So I know if you prepare for interviews, okay, let's spend a minute there. Like it's important that you work through all the case prep. Obviously, it's important to practice as much as you can, but it's also important to trust your common sense. Okay. I mean, like every day in consulting, I mean, I don't know that many industries and I don't know that many project types, you know. I mean, I worked in management consulting like for 3 or 4 years, but I mean, I don't know everything. Most problems I can solve with common sense, okay? And I think it's very important to be kind of very self-confident. Don't be too cocky and too self-confident, but trust yourself and trust your common sense and just trust yourself to ask the right questions, okay? So I think this would be my last minute tip if you don't have any time left to prepare. Okay, then there are a couple of questions that I will tackle in my live tomorrow. Cool. Then I will go through the chat again. I think there is critical and strategic thinking, decision-making, communication skill, process, and human behavior improvement. Yes, these are all important things. Good. Then, if you don't have any more questions, and I think I answered all of them, then I want to thank you for your time. It was a pleasure. Don't forget, tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET, so German time, is a live Q&A session. We will do it about 60 minutes, and we will only do questions. Are you going to upload somewhere today's live session? I will upload the live session on IGTV this time because my camera didn't work, so I cannot upload it on YouTube, I think. I will try to upload it on IGTV if I get it done technically. Yeah, but I plan it. Okay, cool. Then thank you for your time. It was fun, and then talk to you tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET for the live session. Okay? Then have a great evening. Bye.